Hey, good morning, everybody. Welcome to Soapbox Slam, where I get on my soapbox and I slam things that I see going on. This particular soapbox, I'm really on my box here about Bill Cosby. Now, I posted recently a lot of clips on Facebook of different episodes of the Cosby Show. I think I spent all night going through, hours. Let me just say all night. I spent hours watching tons of old Bill Cosby shows. And it's ironic that, well, first of all, I'm grateful that whoever got these clips and posted them on Facebook, I appreciate it. And I appreciated watching these shows because it was truly funny. And it was, Bill Cosby, from the time that show ran, 1985 to 89, Bill Cosby was kind of deemed America's dad, right? America's dad, not black dad. Bill Cosby, Dr. Huxtable, and Felicia Rashad, Claire Huxtable, were America's family. America's family. Not a black family, not a white family, America's family. The embodiment of American values, the embodiment of an American family, right? This was the beauty of the Cosby Show and Bill Cosby and that television show. It was one that I think across any race, any religion, whatever the case may be, you would fall in love with that family. And people did. I certainly did. I took many of notes on what kind of husband and what kind of father I would want to be by watching that show. Now, this show is really to get on a little backstory on Bill Cosby. Bill Cosby got his start in San Francisco in the 1960s. He did stand-up comedy in bars and clubs all over San Francisco. There are a lot of people who got actually a lot of starts in San Francisco, but that's a different thing. Bill Cosby got his start in San Francisco and did tons of stand-up comedy in the Bay Area. And during the 1960s, San Francisco was kind of deemed the hippiest city in the United States. There was this kind of fluidity in sex and love. There was a lot of opposition to the war that was going on, Korean and Vietnam War, and it was kind of a turning point in American society, where the generations that were living in San Francisco kind of opposed the status quo. And Bill Cosby was in the midst of all of this, doing stand-up comedy. I can only imagine his humor at that time were reflective of the times. And so he got to start there. He moved on from doing, and he produced several records, stand-up comedy records during that time. He moved on from there and starred in television show I Spy, and doing other films with Sidney Poitier and Richard Pryor. This is a rich history from the 60s until the late 70s, early 80s, that Bill Cosby did a lot of work. In the 80s, he sponsored and was a spokesmodel for Jell-O and pudding, and he did very well. He created cartoons that were for children and teenagers. Fat Albert was something that he created, and he's always been an educator first. That's who he's always been. So Bill Cosby has a very rich history and had extremely wonderful talent of understanding and comedy, and being educated as a black male. So in the 1980s, 1984 to 1989, somewhere around that time, Bill Cosby created The Cosby Show. He also created other shows after The Cosby Show, A Different World, The Cosbys, which is not The Cosby Show, but it's called The Cosbys. And it's basically a clips or the life of the elderly after the kids have left the house, truly have left the house, which is one of the running jokes in The Cosby Show. In The Cosby, it's another show. It's just him and Claire, and it's their lives in retirement. It's a wonderful show. That ran for a couple of years. He said he did another show that lasted for 2 years, which was fantastic, but it was called Kids Say the Darndest Things. He's had a phenomenal career in producing shows. I don't want to get on the soapbox to actually necessarily just talk about Bill Cosby. What I'm actually on my soapbox about is two parts, right? I love The Cosby Show. And Bill Cosby was indicted, convicted, and then acquitted and vacated for the crime of aggravated sexual indecency, right? Now, he was convicted in Pennsylvania, Philadelphia, Pennsylvania, for this crime, and vacated, released. But and his crime, again, was aggravated sexual indecency. Now, I am not co-signing or endorsing or anything like that. I mean, I find it despicable that, you know, you had to drug women and in order to sleep with one. I mean, why would you do that? Like, I don't understand that. Like, why do you have to drug a woman in order to get laid? Just fucking pay for a whore. I know tons of people, men and women, who sell their shit left and right, do OnlyFans and everything else. These people are paid and bought for. You can buy any one of these hoes. Why would you have to drug any of them? Like, why would you have to drug them? And he did this. He did this. I don't care if he was vacated or anything else. I know that you can look into that man's eyes and you can look at his behavior and you can tell he's guilty of this. He did this. The other problem I have with Bill Cosby is he indicted African-American men for their behaviors, their over-sexualization, their abuse of women, their lack of fatherhood and leadership in the family and everything else, which I don't condemn him for making those comments. He was actually quite right. There is something unfortunate about what has occurred in the African-American community, and a mentality among the African-American community that kind of endorses or enables behavior like that. And it's unfortunate. It's extremely unfortunate that that our community is kind of riddled with that kind of reputation. I don't know that it's, to be honest with you, I don't know that that is a African-American thing. That is a poverty thing. I think that that is something that is indicative of the classes that you're in. And I also think it's something that's kind of indicative of the idea of male power and abuse of power. An ability for a man to intimidate a woman and abuse a woman and try to control a woman and seduce a woman and force a woman to a man's will. And again, I don't think that that's 100% just the African-American community. In fact, it's not. It's beyond the African-American community. It's a problem with male dominance and male perspective, male patriarchy. And the problem isn't male patriarchy. What the problem is we have too many males in the world who are not real men. The problem is we have too many men in the world who fail to live up to a certain standard and morale of how you treat your fellow human being and how you treat a female. And, you know, it's a failure of society because we have enabled and endorsed this kind of patriarchal perspective that, and it's not the patriarch perspective, it's the abuse of power in the patriarch that we have not corrected and have allowed to run amok, and this is the result of that. And Bill Cosby is horribly guilty of this. This absolute power corrupts absolutely. Bill Cosby, Harvey Weinstein, this Me Too movement where men, I mean, and it's across the board, whether it's gay or straight. I mean, Kevin Spacey is a despicable man, absolutely despicable. He abused younger men using his power and authority to force them into sex, coerce them, force them, compel them, all sorts of things. Like, you used your power to get laid with other men. I mean, despicable gay behavior, homosexual behavior, however you want to call that, define people that way. Despicable, though, nonetheless, absolutely despicable. And, you know, there are tons of men who do not have the discipline to pull themselves back and be of a different, higher morale and standard, and fall victim to this abuse of power, and using this abuse of power to obtain sexual gratifications. And the problem I have is that Bill Cosby made all of these indictments among African American men, and he himself is guilty of an equally disgusting behavior. So he's beyond a hypocrite. I have a problem with that, Mr. Cosby. You are just as bad as the black men that and I use the quote, and I put in quote, the black men that you condemn. And it's not just black men, it's men that you should have condemned. Men who behave this way, because it's not just black men, it's all men in positions of power who do this to women. And you are just as guilty of it. So you might as well be beating your women too. You might as well be a lower class black man who did the exact same thing that other men did, because you are no better. You might think that, oh, all I did was drug them and take advantage of them sexually, right? You might think that that's a lesser crime, but in the scope of everything, your crime is, to me, just as egregious as a black man. I put in quotes black man because you, Mr. Cosby, attributed it just to black men. I would say all men who abuse their power and abuse their wives, or abuse their power and sexually manipulate people, that I would condemn. And that would be consistent across the board. And that, Mr. Cosby, you are absolutely wrong and horrible for that. And, you know, the man is 89 years old today. And, you know, however, I say all this, and I mean everything I say, but all of this does not warrant, it truly, in my heart of hearts, does not warrant taking away the Cosby Show from the public. I can't buy that show. I can't stream that show. I don't know how it is whoever got that show put on air on Facebook, and I liked, I clicked shared, and I would encourage anybody who does like the Cosby Show to like it from my profile and share it as well, because I don't think that because these are the sins of the flesh and sins of human beings, that we should be deprived of a beautiful art form in this television. I don't think his crime is worth taking away that gift to society. I don't think it's worth it. It doesn't, to me, that doesn't match the crime. I don't think any crime would match the crime. They did the same thing to R. Kelly. They did, you know, they haven't yanked all of Harvey Weinstein's productions. All of his productions should be yanked. If that is fair, if fair is across the board, then everything that Harvey Weinstein ever touched, produced, was a part of, should also be yanked. But it's not. It really isn't. The only things that I have seen been pulled away from the public is when they have condemned Bill Cosby or R. Kelly. They did do that to Kevin Spacey, but let's keep in mind, Kevin Spacey is a faggot. Oh, I'm sorry. All of your panties are going to be in a bunch because I said the word faggot. He's a homosexual. He's a gay man. If you are that sensitive to the freaking word, I am so sorry. I do not mean to insult you by saying that word. I mean, would it make you feel better if I told you I was a faggot, so it's okay to me to use the word faggot? Just like I'm a nigga, so it's okay for me to use the word nigga? I mean, does that make it okay? I don't know. I don't know if that's true or not. All I'm saying here is don't get your panties in the bunch because I use that word. I'm simply saying Kevin Spacey was a homosexual male who did the exact same thing, and they did yank his stuff off the line. But I think they did it because he's homosexual, because they didn't do it to all of Harvey Weinstein's productions, and they didn't do Bryant Gumbel or all of that other stuff. Yeah, they made some shows about, Blonde Bombshell, or I don't think his name was Bryant Gumbel. It was the white man who made all those television castings. So this cancel culture, the point I'm making is this cancel culture would get rid of a contribution to society because they despise a man. They did it to Michael Jackson, right? And I argue that we can condemn the flesh and condemn the sins of the flesh without destroying the art that was contributed to society. And I feel that taking away the ability to watch The Cosby Show and all of his other productions and his comedies, taking that away from us because you don't like what he did. I don't like what he did. But that doesn't mean that I should not have the right to watch what I want to watch and take my parental cues or guidance or laugh at having a family or anything like that. Why should I be denied that? If you hate that man so much, then you don't support it personally. But you are going to make everybody across the board deal with your issues or your problems with what he's done. That's not fair. You don't like something. For example, I don't go to Chick-fil-A. I refuse to go to Chick-fil-A. I boycott Chick-fil-A. And as a black man, that is why I think all black people, and they kind of already do because you don't see a lot of black people going to Chick-fil-A, but I think people who understand the concept that Mormonism has created this kind of the same mentality of Judaism, that they are the chosen superior group, and that they condemn, even in their own religion, condemn lesser people, that particularly of African Americans. Why would I go there? Ever? Why would I ever give them a dime? Right? But because they do that, we don't not allow Chick-fil-A to do business. People can choose. But you're not allowing me to choose when it comes to Bill Cosby or R. Kelly or some of these people who, I agree, their crimes are extremely egregious. But I don't know what the answer to that is. What I do know is you should not have the authority to take that away from me. My choice to watch him or not, you should not have the authority to take that away from me because you don't like his sins of the flesh. I don't like his sins of the flesh, but that doesn't mean I'm not going to watch his comedy. That doesn't mean I'm not going to watch his television show. And the fact that you would try to control that is, to me, wrong. It's unfair. So that's what I'm on my soapbox about. I as I stated earlier, I condemn Bill Cosby altogether as a man. I condemn him because he indicted the African American male population as if it was just an African American problem, and it's a problem with males in power who abuse their power. But he indicted a small group of males and painted African American males horribly by doing that, when he himself was guilty of the same kind of sins and crime. And it's a crime against humanity, whether you abuse women or sleep around with women and don't become good fathers, or whether you drug women to have sex and literally sexually assault them, right? Assault is assault, whether it's sexual assault or whether it's a physical assault, but you didn't necessarily rape them. Assault is still assault. So men who abuse women or convicted of assault and battery, to me, is no different than a man who sexually assaults a woman because he drugs them to get laid. Especially when someone like Bill Cosby has so much money that he can pay for a fucking whore. Just pay for a fucking whore. They're everywhere. They're on OnlyFans. They're everywhere. You can buy a whore anywhere. And I've said this before millions of times. There are tons of whores and there are tons of sluts out there. Why would you drug somebody to have sex when you can easily get a whore or easily get a slut? I mean, I have a little more respect for a whore because at least they're trying to make money and at least they're offering a good and service and making money that way, as opposed to a slut who's just getting ran through because they like to get ran through as a dirty, I mean, to me, there's a difference. A slut and a whore. But the point I make here is Bill Cosby could have gotten any whore and paid for it. He could have paid for it, man. So why would you assault a woman and drug her to fuck her? It's foul. You just as foul as all the men that you were indicting. And I'm on my soapbox because I do indict Bill Clinton, I indict him too. But Bill Cosby, I do indict the man for his crimes of his flesh. I do. Absolutely. Your crimes against humanity and your crimes against human beings is almost, if not maybe a bit worse than just somebody who just beat somebody. Because yeah, there might be some physical abuse and some physical harm and that, but the emotional trauma that you created in raping someone, the emotional trauma that you created in sexual assault is way more egregious than anybody, unless it has happened to you. And I am talking from my own experience. Unless it has happened to you, you have no idea the emotional trauma something like that can do to someone for their life. That's about power and control. And that is the worst thing you can do. At least on a fight, if there's a reason for a fight, there's a reason for the physical assault, boom, boom, battery, whatever else. Now, men abusing women, that's wrong. Again, it's a different level kind of wrong. A totally different level of emotional abuse and physical abuse that destroys a person way beyond just the crime that the physical crime of it, right? Because the scars and the emotional distress that one goes through for life because of it is something that can never, ever, ever, ever be replaced financially or anything like that. So those crimes are very serious crimes, and I indict Mr. Cosby for that. But that does not mean I refuse to watch his art form, his artful gift to the world. And you guys made that choice for me, and that's fucked up. That's fucked up. You should not have made that choice for me. I should be able to have the choice to watch anything that I want to watch, regardless of the person's crime. If I don't like their crime, I should have a choice whether or not, because I don't like their crime, to not watch their stuff. Just like I should have a choice to read a book that might be about LGBTQAI+, or Alice Walker's book, or anything like that. You in Florida, Ron DeSantis, and in Texas should not have the authority to take that out of the libraries so that I do not have access to it. You should not be censoring me. And that's what you're doing. You're censoring. And I should not, and that is what I'm on my soapbox about. The fact that you have censored my ability to watch what Bill Cosby has given to this world because you don't like him for what he did, or you don't like Alice Walker for writing about the color purple and homosexual experiences among women and their need for each other and why they would build each other up out of love and express that love and building each other out and express that kind of a sexual expression to build their women, to build another woman up. You condemn that, and you condemn that kind of innate human experience and human need for that kind of rebuild in esteem and rebuild in confidence. You would condemn that when you are the very cause of those problems. You are the very cause of those problems. Your inability to understand humanity and have compassion and empathy for humanity creates that problem. And you're doing that again when you censor me from being able to watch Bill Cosby. Again, I indict Bill Cosby. I condemn the man. But the art form to me is way more important than the man. It's way more important. Michael Jackson's art form is way more important than his sins of the flesh. R. Kelly's art form is way more important to me than his sins of the flesh. And that's how I feel. That's what I'm on my soapbox about. Give me back my Cosby Show. I want to be able to purchase it stream it, and watch it. That's what I'm on my soapbox about. You took that away from me because you don't like what Bill Cosby did, and that's not cool. And that's a problem with cancel culture. That is a problem. That is what I'm on my soapbox about.